Francis Scott Key Bridge, which I've been over many, many times commuting from the state of Delaware, either on a train or by car. Been in Baltimore Harbor many times. And the bridge collapsed, sending several people in vehicles into the water, into the river. And multiple U.S. Coast Guard units, which are stationed very nearby, thank God, were immediately deployed along with local emergency personnel. And the Coast Guard is leading the response to the port, where representatives from the Federal Highway Administration, the FBI, the Department of Transportation, the Army Corps of Engineers, as well as Maryland officials and Baltimore Police and Fire, are all working together to coordinate an emergency response. Officials at the scene estimate 8 people were unaccounted for, not still, were unaccounted for. That number might change. 2 have been rescued, 1 without injury, 1 in critical condition. And the search and rescue operation is continuing for all those remaining as we speak. I spoke with Governor Moore this morning, as well as the Mayor of Baltimore, the county executive, both United States senators and the congressman. And my Secretary of Transportation is on the scene. I told them we're going to send all the federal resources they need as we respond to this emergency. And I mean all the federal resources. And we're going to rebuild that port together. Everything so far indicates that this was a terrible accident. At this time, we have no other indication, no other reason to believe there's any intentional act here. Personnel on board the ship were able to alert the Maryland Department of Transportation that they had lost control of their vessel, as you all know and reported. As a result, local authorities were able to close the bridge to traffic before the bridge was struck, which undoubtedly saved lives. And our prayers are with everyone involved in this terrible accident and all the families, especially those waiting for the news of their loved one right now. I know every minute in that circumstance feels like a lifetime. You just don't know. It's just terrible. We're incredibly grateful for the brave rescuers who immediately rushed to the scene, and to the people of Baltimore who want to say, we're with you. We're going to stay with you as long as it takes. And like the governor said, you're Maryland tough, you're Baltimore strong, and we're going to get through this together. And I promise we're not leaving. Here's what's happening now. The search and rescue operation is our top priority. Ship traffic in the Port of Baltimore has been suspended until further notice, and we'll need to clear that channel before the ship traffic can resume. The Army Corps of Engineers is on the spot and is going to help lead this effort to clear the channel. The Port of Baltimore is one of the nation's largest shipping hubs, and I've been there a number of times as a senator and as a vice president. It handles a record amount of cargo last year. It's also the top port in America for both imports and exports of automobiles and light trucks. Around 850,000 vehicles go through that port every single year, and we're going to get it up and running again as soon as possible. 15,000 jobs depend on that port, and we're going to do everything we can to protect those jobs and help those workers. The bridge is also critical for travel, not just for Baltimore, but for the Northeast Corridor. Over 30,000 vehicles cross the Francis Scott Key Bridge on a daily basis. It's virtually, it's one of the most important elements for the economy in the Northeast and the quality of life. My transportation secretary is there now. As I told Governor Moore, I've directed my team to move heaven and earth to reopen the port and rebuild the bridge as soon as humanly possible. And we're going to work hand in hand with the support of Maryland to support Maryland whatever they ask for. We're going to work with our partners in Congress to make sure the state gets the support it needs. It's my intention that federal government will pay for the entire cost of reconstructing that bridge, and I expect the Congress to support my effort. This is going to take some time. The people of Baltimore can count on us, though, to stick with them at every step of the way until the port is reopened and the bridge is rebuilt. You know, we're not leaving until this job gets done. Not leaving until then. So I just want to say God bless everybody who got everyone harmed this morning and their families. And may God bless the first responders, many of whom risking their lives. And the reason I'm not going to take a lot of questions, there's remaining issues that are open that we got to determine what's going to happen in terms of the rescue mission and the like. But
Do you plan to go to Baltimore, sir? And if so, how quickly?
I do, and as quickly as I can. That's what
You said the federal government's also going to pay for the repairs. I'm just curious, this was a ship that appears to be at fault. Is there any reason to believe that the company behind the ship should be held responsible? And then also, you mentioned...
That could be, but we're not going to wait till that happens. We're going to pay for it to get the bridge rebuilt and opened.
What did you make of Israel's decision not to attend this meeting this week?
Oh, I don't want to get into that. We'll have plenty of time to talk about Rafah.
You mentioned the port. Can I ask about cars? About the port.
Remarks from President Biden in the Roosevelt Room about the collapse of the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore over the Patapsco River. Importantly, the president said this is a terrible accident, no indication of any other explanation other than that. The president also said the federal government will pay for the rebuilding of the Francis Scott Key Bridge and not wait for blame to be assessed on either party, that is to say the shipping company or any other factor. I want to bring in now former National Transportation Safety Board Chair Robert Zumwalt. Robert, share with the audience what the NTSB is doing at this stage and what the next couple of weeks and months will look like.
Major, good to be with you. And the NTSB will be leading this investigation with the assistance of the U.S. Coast Guard. The NTSB is already gathering a lot of information. There are several things that will help the investigation. For one, they've got a surviving crew, and that's very important. They can get a firsthand account of what was going on in that ship. We also have a voyage data recorder, which will give us many parameters of what was going on with that ship, with the machinery, with the rudder, with the steering gear. And also we've got recordings of the bridge, on the ship's bridge, the recordings of the crew as they are interacting. So there's a lot of information there that will help the NTSB and the Coast Guard put this all together.
Robert, in terms of the potential of an accident of this magnitude, is this something that either the NTSB, the Army Corps of Engineers, Department of Transportation imagine could happen with so much vessel traffic going through a waterway like this? Or is this something that is not planned for, not anticipated in any way, shape, or form?
Well, I think the response that we saw today in Baltimore is a good indication that these communities are prepared for mass casualty events. So I think that speaks well to the planning that goes on behind the scenes.
I want to go back to Nicole Skanga on the scene in Baltimore. Nicole, for the audience's benefit, talk about the infrastructure challenges ahead and the potential economic impact on the Baltimore economy and the Northeastern economy referenced by the president.
Yeah, absolutely. You heard President Biden there reference that this is really a hub of the Northeast. He wants to visit, and he has also vowed that the federal government is going to pay every single penny for this recovery, telling the press there we're going to rebuild it together, and citing that the Army Corps of Engineers is here to clear out the port of Baltimore. Now, you've heard the president say there 30,000 vehicles a day cross the Francis Scott Key Bridge here. In 2023, there were 52.3 million tons of foreign cargo that were carried through the port of Baltimore here, amounting to about $80 billion. Just a tremendous amount, Major. But we are hearing from law enforcement officials and officials here, the governor, the mayor, saying, yes, we know that this is a key commerce hub. Right now, the focus is on rescue and recovery. Tomorrow, we have to move on. We have to rebuild and figure out how we're going to get this port up and running again.
Nicole Skanga, thank you very much. Also, our thanks to Robert Zumwalt, former chairman of the NTSB. Our coverage will continue on CBS News Streaming, your local news, and of course tonight on the CBS Evening News. This has been a CBS News Special Report. I'm Major Garrett in Washington. Good day.